Once again, two more shows are in the books. AEW Loud and WWE WRESTLEPALOOZA as we put the predictions to rest and look at the stats. Who got it all right? Who got it all wrong? How many were in between? You're about to find out, so stay tuned momentarily. Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to another Predictions Post-Mortem with me and PapaGino. You know what this is. I am the Superman of the Simple Brand, the voice of the SRS Forever Great for all things professional wrestling. Damn it. And my name is Noah Foster, primary booker for the City Prediction Leagues. In conjunction with No DQ, so yeah, No DQ and Riff. Yeah, and thank you all for tuning in whether live or on demand. Again, if you are tuning in right now, please like to subscribe, comment, tell a friend. If you want to dictate the conversation, just let your thoughts be known in chat. It's as simple as that. Hey, Gino, what's up, bro? Just saw you last night in the review. You moderated that. And, of course, we co-host this little soiree of statistical analysis and data management. It's always a pleasure. How you been?
I've been well, man. It's definitely been hotter out than it should be this late into the year. Not only in weather terms, but also wrestling terms, the competition and the going back and forth, the counter programming, booking and stuff like that, the overrun into the beach shows. And it's like, it's definitely been hot out there, and looking forward to laying it all to rest.
As we always do, as another Tuesday in the books. So I think without further ado, I am as well looking forward to moving on. As I always look towards the future and I don't dwell on the past. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So again, we had two shows, AEW All Out, WWE WRESTLEPALOOZA. I figure we'll just go in that order, kind of like we did last time. So we'll start with AEW All Out, and shout out, by the way, to the 56 overall of you that submitted your picks in for that. Thank you, and hope you continue to have fun. This is your first time. Hope you enjoyed. As you can see, the all-elite team of No DQ comprises of about 15 members. There you see me and PapaGino's names right there in the yellow. You can get an idea of what was right in green and what were the scores to a degree, as I did the best because I love All Elite Wrestling. And again, I love this company. I love this promotion. I also love the sport, the art form, the performance professional wrestling. Whole different conversation. Go look more into that in the No DQ review. But yeah, Gino, I think it wasn't necessarily too hard to predict upon, but there were a couple of matches that I could see some people having unique thoughts on. So I guess simply put, not like Cody Rhodes, where you want to begin?
I think it's best to start today. We usually start sometimes with the stuff that people mostly got wrong. Sometimes we start with the stuff that everybody got right and things like that. And there's a lot here that everybody got right. So I think we should start with that, and then we can address the elephants in the room, the stuff that maybe the most of us got wrong. So why don't we just go right into that first match?
TBS Championship.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't Cope and Cage the start of the premium live event? Or?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was looking at the form. Yes, I actually have them in order, so that's perfect. Yeah. It was unanimous awesomeness that I like to put it, because Adam Coleman and Christian Cage returned home to Toronto, made some nods to not only some great tag teams in the past, even Canada greats like the Hart Foundation, but even one person that we couldn't see. And I'm sure even acts of unforgiveness have been forgiven, at least over the last 19 years to a degree. And of course, to your point, it was a homecoming for two of Canada's greats from Toronto, Christian Cage and Adam Coleman, that got the better of FTR in a very compelling match that also introduced, please let it not be a one-off, Beth Copeland, the freaking Glamazon, the Phoenix. But it did not come without aftermath. But overall, I think it comes down to the fact this was two incredible legends homecoming, a dream match of two great tag teams of their own generation. But there is no way I could see Adam Copeland and Christian Cage eating the L, even by dubious means, because that's not the AEW way. Don't you agree?
Well, we'll see a lot of people maybe in the chats don't think I watch enough of this or don't watch the shows and can't really break these things down. I will let you all know that I, in fact, did watch All Out. This isn't a breakdown of the event necessarily. This is always going to be a breakdown of what the stats went into this. And it looks like everybody was in the same boat. I mean, This isn't the WWE where they have people lose in their hometown. At least the last 20 years or so has been, your favorite's going to lose in their hometown because that's just a way to get cheap heat. It did look like they might lose, though. So, and I get wanting to instate, FTR, and they're making their case for like a top 10 tag team of all time. I mean, even Dynamite going into the event, they were talking about that. And I feel like maybe they were going to try and put them over. Yes, I also watched Dynamite leading into this. We doing our homework out here. So it had to be Cope and Cage. They're still, I'm not going to say a new tag team, but they're still new to tagging with each other in this stage of their career in life. And, definitely one of the top three tag teams of all time, in my opinion. And so it was really good to see them together and get the win. Obviously, you mentioned the Glamazon, Cope's wife. And it's funny that I even call him Cope because when he first like made that like his like kind of his new name, obviously Adam Copeland is his name and
Right.
whatever, it probably is his nickname. Like I was like, that's stupid. But since his name is now being back to Adam Copeland, I feel like it's okay to call him Cope again.
It's like a
I
short
don't know if
nickname.
I'm crazy. I don't know
Right.
if I'm crazy for that. But it looked like everybody was on the same page with that. Um, there's really not much more to unpack with that.
Not really.
FTR, they're gonna have a big. They're still relatively young guys, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but they're definitely not as old as Cope and Cage.
No.
And I think they've got a bigger future. They're probably gonna get something back over them, um, one way or another. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to
I was
to
I
that?
was I was just gonna think about this. FTR and Canada don't get along well. I think about NXT Takeover Toronto, where FTR lost to DIY for the NXT Tag Team Championships. But you can't argue that FTR are one of those defining teams this generation of tag team wrestling. River throwback. To your point, they are the younger in experience. I think they've only been a tag team now for about maybe close to a little over 13 years, and they've been nothing but tag team specialists their entire careers. Why they've been record-setting at 10-time tag team champions because they won tag gold wherever they went. Why Adam Cole and Christian Cage, they wrote the book on tag team wrestling, even turned a gimmick into a pay-per-view. So this to me felt very special to see this type of tag match personally. But as far as the outlook goes, I don't have much more to say. I just, like I said, I couldn't see Adam Cole and Christian Cage losing their first time together in Toronto as a duo in the ring in over 20 plus years, especially the first time ever in the Scotiabank Arena, to my knowledge.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, like I said, everybody seemed to be on the same page with this one. So speaking of page, I feel like we'll just move into the AEW World Championship
Cowboys,
where
Kishnak.
Adam, Hangman Adam Page retained his championship. Now, from what I've been able to see from Kyle Fletcher, I'm very impressed. He definitely could be the future or one of the futures of AEW, but
Mm-hmm.
Hangman Page should absolutely be holding on to this title. And usually you like to put some younger guys over, help build new stars this way. Fletcher's got his own thing kind of going on right now. I think Hangman Page is destined to lose the title to like either back to Mox or either to MJF or either to even maybe a Darby Allin of sorts, right?
Right.
Um, and the match was what we expected it to be. It was well wrestled match. I wasn't like in love with the story told, but at the end of the day, I believe that the correct person, the true one of the heads of their company. I don't mean like behind the scenes. I mean like in front of the camera. He is one of their biggest stars, and he needed to continue building that. He still just got the title a few matches ago. I didn't see them switching it at this time. What do you think?
Yeah, there's another one here where, again, sometimes the circumstance is more important than the actual decision. And to your point, it really pushes forward who could be a leader of the future. Kyle Fletcher's been coming out on interviews, particularly out of Chicago, where he and Sky Blue live. Of course, they're a couple. They want to be leaders. They want to push AEW forward. They want to hone their potential here and push professional wrestling. And I think both Sky Blue and Kyle Fletcher are doing that in a way. Sky Blue, of course, part of the Triangle of Madness, loving hardcore matches. Wants to be a face, he wants to be a women's world champion. Her and Stark got her, so just saying. And then Kyle Fletcher, the proto star, who's been really peaking right now, pushing forward his prime, is just starting to really show what he's capable of. In his first ever world championship chance, I thought he really had a strong offensive challenge towards the Hangman. It was a hard fought battle, but the statistical analysis in both the length of the title and the early chance of the title changing, it wasn't in favor of the Protostar. But at the end of the day, it's more about the effort you put in versus the decision rendered, at least on screen. For us here, it felt like a no-brainer. Heyman had to retain unless there was a major, major injury botch. And God forbid, this is professional wrestling. Yes, we know it is interpreted to a degree. And I'm going to use that word versus the F word. Let's say the F word, you're undermining the business. But anything can happen at any time. The Protostar was make or break on so many levels here, and he held his own up very strong in this match. Didn't probably one bit the results, but I'm very impressed with Kyle Fletcher.
Well done. So I think it's time that we move on here to the TBS Championship. I mean, this is probably about as quick of an analysis as you're going to get. You're not betting against Mercedes Moné in any capacity. I mean, she's Super Cena. She's Mercedes Hogan. She's whatever you want to call her. And it makes sense, right? Like, she's got the name recognition. She's got the star power, whether you want to believe it or not. Not you, but like whether people want to believe it or not, she's still always going to be one of the 4 horsewomen of NXT, and she's going to get pushed to the moon. I'm just waiting for her to decide that she wants, like, the only way she would drop it is if she's focusing on the women's world title, which she's not going to do. Or I feel like they're giving her these wins and giving her these other titles so that she doesn't come after the world championship. But now, and we'll get to this in a second, but now that Timeless Tony Storm's no longer the champion, you lose the ability to have that big match, unless it's for the TBS championship. But we're not here to make those predictions necessarily. We're here to break this down. And it looked like everybody was 15 for 15 on that. I mean, you can't bet against Mercedes Moné. What are your thoughts, Noah?
The CEO continues to build her portfolio and continues to preserve her most precious cornerstone of the entire thing, the TBS Championship. I look at it for 2 reasons. One, Mercedes Moné is on the verge of bringing Jade Cargill's reign as the longest reigning TBS champion. With that milestone in sight, looking at the present versus the past, I think they're going to let Mercedes Moné peek past that. And I don't think she's going to lose the title before that. So I don't think she's going to lose it until, if we're lucky, Wrestle Dream, where I hope Moné makes a dream come true for another bright up-and-coming AEW wrestler. Whether it's Willow Nightingale, full circle moment when she first took the title from her, a whole different conversation. The result here doesn't surprise me either, but I like the fact that Mercedes Moné is testing herself against these first-time people in what kind of feels like an open challenge. It really brings more people to the forefront of AEW and to wrestling. You think about who she's faced one-on-one for the first time ever. Riho, Alex Windsor, Bozilla, Persephone, and what promotions are represented throughout that. Stardom, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling, CMLL, partners, of course, of AEW. Mercedes Moné being the TV champion and putting this TV title out there in different promotions, I think draws more of a marketing appeal, even the smallest degree, to AEW. And with that other hindsight in mind, there's no reason Mercedes Moné had to lose it here. And I think you make a lot of good points about the World Championship because it's not a workhorse championship. It's a TV championship. What can you do within TV time? Talk about the literal 15 minutes of fame, despite the fact it was a 30-minute match. I just can't see Mercedes Moné losing this TBS title now until she beats Jade Cargill's run. And as far as becoming world champion, whole different conversation for another day. That's not a prediction. That's a premonition for some people that may want to see that happen. But based on what I saw, I hope that doesn't happen for a long time. But yeah, I was impressed here because Mercedes Moné, she is one of the most obnoxious, self-absorbed characters I've ever seen in professional wrestling. And maybe she's that in reality. I don't know. I don't judge. I don't even know the person. But can't argue, bell to bell. She earns the victory every time, and she got over Riho. The win over Riho doesn't surprise me one bit, and it doesn't surprise me that almost everybody, not just the team here, but probably everybody in the poll. I'm talking about the literal 56 overall, including this. So that's like 40 people, random people in the All Elite fleet that, of course, of our predictions league, basically said the same thing. Mercedes Moné wasn't losing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the last match on here where everybody listed for no DQ got 100% correct was the grudge match with Eddie Kingston. And he was obviously fighting against Big Bill. We all know him as Big Cass. I'm a huge Enzo and Cass fan. I lived in a house with 4 or 5 of my buddies at the time where they were really peaking. And when that music would hit, they would be paying attention. They wanted to see what Enzo was going to say, like, and they're not wrestling fans. So, like, that matters to me as a fan. Now, Big Bill, he's done a lot to kind of, with what he's had to work with, transitioning, learning tree, no Enzo, Starks be kind of being, he's got his new mouthpiece and things like that. And he's had to overcome those things. But there is a place in wrestling for a 7-foot tall man that you can't teach that. The only thing is Eddie Kingston returning after being gone for so long, one of AEW's staples. Like, to me, Eddie Kingston embodies what AEW is all about, even more so than Jon Moxley. Okay. He's a tough, rugged, blue collar, teeth gritting, rub dirt in the wounds, like normal built body type of person. Like you're, essentially a Kevin Owens thing, which I think Kevin would do great in AEW, but we'll see what happens. I just didn't think they were going to pull the trigger on Big Bill winning this match against Eddie. And I'm glad I was right, because I haven't been watching, every single hour and minute of every show going into it, but I watched the Go Home show. I didn't do any research going into predictions. I just kind of went with my gut. I probably should do a little bit more research going into these things, but Eddie Kingston was the rightful winner, and it was a relatively enjoyable match. I mean, for two clashing of styles and the way they wrestle, I thought I was very impressed with Big Bill. I really was, and I think that, I hope that Khan was impressed with him, and maybe he can get some wins and some stuff moving forward. But it wasn't going to come against Eddie Kingston. I think he needs to be built back up, because he was on that kind of trajectory until that injury happened. So, what do you think?
497 days on injury since out of resurgence, literally last year or so ago. It made a lot of sense here for Eddie Kingston to win in his return. And to your point, Eddie Kingston didn't go through WWE like Jon Moxley or Big Cass, and Big Bill has literally reinvented himself for the better as a person and as a wrestler here in AEW. So I think this was really cool here to see these two New Yorkers here come together, where I do think there's respect between the two, but I couldn't see Eddie Kingston lose his return match. Eddie Kingston's been one of the most respected men here in AEW by the faithful fans that have followed this man's journey and have heard his story. Former Continental Classic champion, former Ring of Honor champion, former NWA Strong champion, so prideful on wrestling. Sometimes questions if he even can keep up with this roster. Looking at the behind the scenes on its way into AEW and the welcome that it got just from production people, let alone, really goes to show how much Eddie Kingston was missed. So I think it was justified for Eddie Kingston to win here. And based on what happened afterwards, I think we're going to get more of Eddie Kingston and Big Bill interactions, which I think is going to be better for both men heading into the fall season. The result, again, didn't surprise me, but it was a great return back to ring for Eddie, and I'm glad that he's back.
Yes, absolutely. Again, like, as somebody who's not like the most on board with AEW, like, as far as I'm not like watching it as regularly as a lot of as a lot of people who enjoy it more than I'm not saying I don't enjoy it. Like, there are some things that, like, I wish they were doing better, but
Right.
I also feel the same way about WWE. I just have been a WWE fan for so long, and I'm so much more invested and ingrained into what's going on. Obviously, Cena's there, so it's pulling my attention. But that leads me to this next match that I think we should be breaking down, because it's something that you got right. Not many people got right, but I got wrong. And there's going to be a few of those, but this one in particular is somebody that I do pay attention to the most in AEW, and that's the tables and tax match between Mark Briscoe and MJF.
Whew.
Let me just say right off the bat, as a semi-casual, like, viewer of this product, like, when I found out that they were putting MJF against Briscoe, like, toothless, kind of cross-eyed, doesn't have that what you think of when you think of a wrestler look, right? And again, that's kind of the Eddie Kingstons of the world, the the Mark Briscoes of the world and things like that. And I'm glad that they have a place to show off their skills, because if he wasn't in this match with MJF, I might not have really given him the respect that he deserves. And it was a kick butt match. And more importantly, because what I really like about the wrestling is the story that's being told. The story that they told in this ring with these tacks, and MJF's apprehension to want to fall on these tacks. Obviously, he agrees to the match and whatever. But in kayfabe and storytelling, that they were telling the story that he was doing everything he could to avoid getting into those tacks. And about 4 minutes into the match, not even 5 minutes into the match, I was like, Briscoe's winning this thing. You could just tell, because MJF keeps doing move after move after move, and Briscoe's essentially like a pseudo mankind Mick Foley, the way he embraces the pain. And you know what? Like, I gained a lot of respect for Briscoe, and that's why you put your stars in with people who you want to build up. Same thing with like your Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch. Now people are more invested in Becky's story than ever before because they got that rub. And if you're going to have MJF lose, which we all know I don't think that should be happening, this is how you do it. You show him having basically every possibility to win, but refusing to pull the trigger because he doesn't want to lie down on the floor. He doesn't want to do the full real pins because he doesn't want to be on the tacks. And it was a spectacle. What up, Charles? It was a spectacle, and it was something that I enjoyed watching, and I could see myself rewatching for years to come if I do decide to go, because again, the story was told great. And if we go back to how everybody laid it out, I believe it was just me and Jerry, it was me and a bunch of people who chose MJF because it feels like we feel like he should be winning these matches. It could have gone, oh, you're going to show how tough MJF is, but instead it went the other way. You show how tough Briscoe is. Everything that MJF was saying about him being like white trash, redneck, all that stuff, whatever, like, no offense to anybody who might fit that description, but MJF wasn't telling any lies. And that's kind of why I was a little sour on the match even needing to happen. But when you have a stipulation like this, somebody who's clearly tough as nails, I'm interested to see what Briscoe does next. And I was not feeling this way literally Saturday morning when I woke up. And you got it right. So what made you think that Briscoe's going to win over MJF when we all know MJF should be winning matches?
With the fact that this story goes back to the fact that Mark Briscoe and MJF confronted each other based on the class of work that they are, the lifestyle that they live, and a subtle intermingle with the Hurt Syndicate segment, trying to get involved in his business. And since then, Mark Briscoe and MJF have been at each other's throats because MJF made it personal, bringing family, invoking Jay Briscoe's name, the death in vain, quote unquote. And it triggered Mark Briscoe, and these already had a one-on-one encounter. We saw the fallout from Forbidden Door. We've seen MJF cause Mark Briscoe and vice versa. It felt like to me that this was almost a way for MJF to, pay for his sins, get a reconcile to move forward. Now we're done with the Mark Briscoe program. I couldn't think of a better way for Mark Briscoe to get revenge than beating MJF with the Dre Jiller in the tags, and in this type of match that MJF, willingly gave Mark Briscoe free range to give him. Now, usually in that type of logic, you would think that they who invoked the match stipulation are going to fall to it due to some sort of shenanigan or interference. But MJF, of course, got a movie coming up. He still has an AEW World contract that he can cash at any time for a week in advance to challenge for the title. So he still is a name you got to consider for the World Championship. So in defeat, I don't think he's hurt. That's why I went Mark Briscoe. It felt like to me this was the way to end the story of Mark Briscoe in victory. A man now, father of 9 children, by the way, and a way for MJF to just, cool off, take some time away to recover, and come back and see who else can put over or move forward in the company, in my opinion. And he and Mark had great magic. I fought in promo and in ring, and you justified the story for this match perfectly. The amount of sheer, brutal, I would just say, battle attrition that Mark Briscoe endured, and MJF also suffered to a degree, but he didn't want to begin with, even going to Tony Khan's office prior to this. It was great. I haven't seen a tax-filled match like this since 10,000 Tax in TNA. I can't recall last time I saw a match simply called Tables and Tax and strictly only focused on that. And that's what it came down to in the end, a tack-filled J Driller. So for me, this set Mark Briscoe to hurt MJF, get the win over everyone's favorite scumbag, Damon Ants, and for Mark Briscoe to move forward in happiness while MJF soaks his wounds. It made perfect sense for me for this to be the end game of Briscoe and MJF. Plus, Mark Briscoe is one of the workhorses of AEW. He does bring a lot of that Mick Foley vibe, including the Cactus Jack a little drop, but he has not gotten no big wins majorly, and he hasn't gotten no big chances either. This helps him towards that. Right now, he wants to pursue the TNT Championship for that matter, and he and Kyle Fletcher already had 4 instant classics. Can't wait for them to do that again. In order for him to get to that level again, he needed to beat MJF and move on. Plus, MJF, he worked double time in 48 hours. He just lost the CML World Championship to Mystico Friday night at Anniversary on 92nd at CMLL. So not only did he push Mark Briscoe for it, he put CMLL and Mystico forward. He deserves a break, whether he's doing movies or finally going on the honeymoon with his wife. In order for that to happen, Mark had to win here.
It's brilliant, thought process going into it, man. I mean, like that's probably why I need to be doing a little bit more research. And obviously it just feels like he's going to keep catching L's until he cashes in that contract. I mean, it's just what it feels like. So for the next match, I want to go to something similar where I was wrong and you were spot on. And it's tough to be spot on when there's multi-man, multi-women matches. The next match we're going to talk about is the AEW World Tag Team Championship 4-way ladder match.
Oh, God.
I am not the biggest fan of the Young Bucks. I guess they're more Bucks than Young Bucks now with the the changes. I think that them using their fully lengthened names actually I like that. So I'm kind of more on board with them now lately, and they're trying to shove down our throat that they're no longer EVPs and no longer have say in the company. I don't know if I believe that, but at least they're trying to separate it on screen, which I appreciate. Now, I thought it was going to be the Young Bucks. I mean, they're inserting themselves into the storyline. It felt like the right time to pull the trigger on them being champions again, but it ended up going to Brodito. Now, an interesting thing here with the predictions were only 2 teams were predicted. It was either the current champs or the Young Bucks. Nobody thought that the other 2 had a chance to do that. So why maintain Brodito? Is it just because it hasn't been that long with the titles, or what's going on?
I think it's literally what you said a moment ago. I think it's the fact they just won the titles at Forbidden Door, which again was the last AEW pay-per-view. This was their second defense, first time in multi-team warfare. It wasn't traditional. They've only been pinned once by the Young Bucks, but it was 8-man tag team matching. Young Bucks could try and justify that they still get a chance at the titles, but here I look at it like this. When you get a ladder match involved, strike that. When you get a multi-team match involved, more often than not, I don't see the champions losing because that usually happens early in their run. Brodito are also, to a degree, AEW originals versus the Elite versus former WWE names. So I really think that AEW is trying to push for their talent to try and rebuild things here in this division that many people thought has been lagging for a while when it was pretty much run a dictatorship by the Young Bucks, EVP status or not. The EVP status in question aside, the Young Bucks acting more like common folk that are broke but have a little bit of money after winning $500,000 in a match where they are still spending mindlessly. I hope that tonight they lost all their money and they come out to nothing but a weird entrance again. That would be hilarious. But yeah, for me, I want to see Brodito actually grow as a duo and lead this division in what I feel like this division is finally getting back to where it once was in prominence. One of my friends used to say that AEW always had tag team wrestling on lockdown. And in their heyday, they did. They wanted to bring tag team wrestling to the main front. And to a degree they have, but they've also lost the way in that with the Young Bucks and FTR only being at the forefront. Now, neither of those teams are in the championship picture. And for me, I don't need to see that in there again. So Brodito made sense for me. Jet Speed's still very young. They also have already had multiple chances here at these titles under multiple circumstances. I didn't see them winning. And as far as I'm concerned, Hechicera and Josh Alexander, it's more random than I ever thought would be possible. And I just don't see that being a long-haul team here in AEW. So who made sense to hold the gold versus who hasn't held the gold? Brodito. So I had to go with the chance retaining.
Absolutely. And, as far as people complaining about choreography and obvious choreography and in matches similar to this with WWE, for example, I mean, you could tell there were choreographed spots here. And
Big
I'm not
time.
somebody who complains about choreographed spots. I mean, there's
No.
the table. Like WWE did something similar to that towards WrestleMania, and it's okay to
Yeah.
to repeat those beats company to company. Like you don't own the rights to everybody jumping off the top rope
You
and going
just
through a
did that at
table.
SummerSlam, for Pete's sake. You had 6 teams in a ladder match and the champions retain. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I found this to be a very enjoyable match again. So anybody who's in the comment section and no DQ or Instagramming me or whatever saying I don't watch the product, well, guess what? I
Take a
certainly am
chance.
not going to respond to your messages, but I will do my due diligence for the betterment of the show. Now let's stick on. Oh, pull it back
Oh,
up for
sorry.
me if you don't mind. Let's stick on
Absolutely.
something that I got wrong and you got right. So when we put the timestamps in the video, we can do. We both got everybody got right. We'll do Gino was wrong, Noah was right, and then we'll do the areas that we were both right
All
that
right.
wasn't
I like
100%. So I want to go to then the trios grudge match.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, the 3 matches I cared the most about all happened within like the first hour and a half of the show. Like, thank you, Tony Khan, for not making me really have to choose between the 2 events. I mean, obviously your world title match went on last, and that was the one I ended up having to miss because your boy's not going to not watch John Cena live. Sorry,
Duh. I
but
know that. I respect
yeah.
that.
So
Continue.
back to the trios grudge match, I picked the Hurt Syndicate, even though I really shouldn't have, because on Dynamite, uh, one of the GOA members, like he was giving me very Jacob Fatu vibes, and I was like,
Totally
yeah.
versus Bobby Lashley. That literally happened on September to Remember. That was this past Wednesday on Dynamite.
Exactly. So yeah, September to Remember, Dynamite. If it's on Wednesday, it's Dynamite to me. You can change the name of it all you want, but I'm going to call it. I'm not that ingrained in the product to be. But I did think that again. I'm watching the product. I'm giving it a fair shake. Bobby Lashley was the reason why I really paid attention to that match. But I'm over here sitting like, bro, is there a Fatu in AEW that I didn't know about? Like he was giving me all of the things that I wanted to see from like Islander wrestler who is tough as a badass, right? Like I just got done watching Chief of War with Jason Momoa. It's the Hawaiian, war. All the islands are warring, and like, bro, like he's got a future, man. Like I couldn't tell you his name, even though you just told me it right now. But he jumped off the screen at me, and I should have picked them, but I thought you're really going to have Hurt Syndicate continue to lose, even though Bobby Lashley isn't really losing, but he is. I just figured they would kind of roll with the wins for them. It was a great match, very entertaining. The MVP taking the pin and stuff like that. I mean, it made sense. I should have thought further ahead, but I didn't. I didn't think Ricochet could rub two dimes together as far as betting on him to win anything. But again, that match on Wednesday really showed me another person in AEW that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on now. Where literally before 8 o'clock on Wednesday, I didn't even know he existed. At me if you want, guys. I'm doing the best I can. There's a lot of content to be watching. Also, I have a personal life and I have other things I want to do with my time. But you had Ricochet and GOA. Again, another situation where there wasn't, you were right and I was wrong, and you only had 3 other people besides you that picked this. What went into your thought process?
Basically, what literally happened on Wednesday night, first and foremost, where Bobby Lashley and Toyota ended in no contest. And I almost remember the fact that Bobby Lashley has yet to be pinned or submitted in AEW. Has only been involved in 2 singles matches. Rumor MJF possibly. Business not personal against the championship. Just saying. Again, I look at teases. There are teases in AEW, and what really could happen, I'm just like, I gotta think about this. I gotta wait on this. But also Toleona, who gives me shades of Jacob Fatu, Umaga, this wild Samoan badass that you like to refer to. He's had my peak interest since I saw him on AEW Dark, and he's really coming to his own with Gates of Agony, now influenced with Ricochet, basically being a bodyguard. For me, though, it goes down to Ricochet and MVP that really started this whole thing. When MVP embarrassed Ricochet a while back saying no one likes a kiss ass, clearly Ricochet never forgot it. He cost him at Forbidden Door. Again, looking at the dominoes falling in line. Ricochet, Gates, Vanity became a trio. We got the undefeated trio of the Hurt Syndicate here, but the story at the forefront, MVP, Ricochet. Can MVP even wrestle that much anymore? Can he even do a singles match anymore with those knees, for example, which was heavily exploited during this match? It had to come down to Ricochet versus MVP for me. And as far as I'm concerned, if Ricochet and the Gates are going to demand respect, by the way, that's what their trio apparently being called, the demand. If they're going to demand respect, they got to win out the gate, or they might as well go back to catering. I had to go with Ricochet and Gates of Agony here. In my opinion, I think the Hurt Syndicate did a great job with the tag team championships. But I want to see Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley run roughshod as single stars now in AEW. And maybe with MVP taking the fall here, though, but business continuing, it doesn't mean MVP got to get involved in the ring again. And the Hurt Syndicate can do different business now, not regarding the tag team championships. Even if they weren't involved in that decision, I want to see Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin exceed as single stars in AEW. So I think for that to happen, the Hurt Syndicate needs to change business plans as a trio. And I think losing as a trio is a start to that. So I went against Ricochet because of that.
I love that. When you have people who are tagging and a faction, like there's almost like this unwritten rule that they have to be like tag partners, and like you really can't do anything as individuals and still be in that team. Like I think back to the New Day and Big E, like you can be part of a faction and go for singles glory. And I think that that's what Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin should be doing. And MVP is still out here balling. Like he's fantastic, and I love seeing him on my television as well. So moving on to the next thing to talk about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
2 matches left.
We're gonna go to the last. Well, there's 3 matches left.
Yeah,
right?
I know. It's 3 matches. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So we're going to go, but we did kind of reference the AEW Women's World Championship, but we didn't talk about it. But we're going to go to the last match I got wrong and you got right. Only me and Jerry Slaughter thought Konosuke Takeshita. Sorry, I know I'm not saying that right. I'm not used to using that name out of my mouth, so forgive me.
It's fair, man. Trust me.
I know it's Takeshita. Like, you don't really pronounce the vowels. Like, I get that. Like, sorry, don't at me. I love Asian culture, so forgive me. I just felt like the time was now to pull the trigger on him. Obviously, Okada's the more elevated, the more like he's the higher ranking he's like the higher up on the card, right? Like I knew that. I just felt like maybe give it to him. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and then pull that back up one more time, if you don't mind, Noah.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm not mistaken, now it was a 3-way, yes. And again, it was just 2 people, 2 outcomes that were decided. So this is another multi-person match where only there was only 2 options really. So I went Takeshita and you went with the current champion. So what made you think that they're going to still keep the strap on him? I feel like he's been champion forever now. Call me out if I'm wrong in what I'm remembering. But what made you go with the current champion?
Well, first off, Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada is one of the big match wrestlers on the planet. I love this heel idea and this new theme and foundation for him. And speaking of new foundation, this is about the AEW Unified Championship, firmly established at AEW All In, which was literally back in July. And of course, we've had one defense on it on pay-per-view under singles term with Forbidden Door. This was a second defense. And again, longer story. Thinking about when Konosuke and Okada first met each other, this is only temporary. When they were both in line with Don Callis, and Don Callis, at the end of the day, the invisible hand with his own plan, puppet master, who's his golden ticket. At first it was the Alpha, now it might be Okada. I always look at triple threats like this. Buffer, fall person. And usually the fall person is the guy that you don't see anybody pick. With all due respect to Mascara, they gave a phenomenal effort here. Should not be considered an afterthought. And also, CMLL represented very strongly here. This comes down to we want to see Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita one-on-one because we want to see the Alpha thrive in AEW as a babyface. For that to happen, you got to have Don Callis stab him with a screwdriver like he's done with so many other people, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, for Konosuke to stand on his own. this family's not big enough for these two big match wrestlers. At the end of the day, we're teasing Okada versus Konosuke. That'd be one of the biggest one-on-ones that AEW could close their year out with or start the new year with for the Unified Championship on any stage. And the only way that continues to happen is that Unified Championship is at the forefront of both those men. Okada holding it, because Okada right now is Don Kyle's new golden ticket. I couldn't see Okada losing here, but it's too soon, and I want to see Okada defend that against Konosuke before he loses it.
So I almost feel like I'm a few months early on my prediction. You know, him being in a triple threat, it was almost obvious that if my guy wasn't going to win, that the third member was going to be the one who took the fall, and that's exactly what happened. We're setting up for a true one-on-one, and that's when I do believe that they might pull the trigger and switch the title there. So now, timestamp the video, everybody, because we're going to go into something to rarefied air, uncharted waters, something that I got right, but the simple man failed to see the vision, if you will.
Damn
And it's apropos of our theme here, where we close the coffin, we lay to rest these events, and it was a coffin match. Moxley versus Allen. Obviously, the last match they had, Allen's team went over. So for me, that was about all I needed to know for picking Jon Moxley. It's a coffin match. You know, Undertaker, you Sting, and into Darby Allin, like it's almost like it's the baton being passed. He's got his skeleton makeup and all that stuff, and that's good and well. But it felt like they wanted us to believe that he was going to win. And to me, that was like, you can't have Moxley continuing to take L's after, for better or mostly for worse, having him leading this Death Rider storyline for so long and like holding the whole company kind of pseudo hostage. So for me, it was Moxley had to get his win essentially back. And I still think Darby Allin is going to be strong coming out of it. But for me, it was Jon Moxley. So why the Everest climber? Why the skateboarding stuntman? Why? Because you could have been perfect.
I know. I'm kicking myself in the ass for it. I really was holding out to see if they were not going to go a full year from Bryan Danielson's Warrior's death, while Bryan Danielson was on commentary, bringing the bag into play that happened last year at All Out, just saying. I really legitimately thought that this was going to be it with the way Jon Moxley says, I have to end Darby Allin. I think about the conveying message, the nature of the promos, and the history of Darby Allin and Jon Moxley, let alone Darby Allin's history of coffin matches. I thought that this was going to be Jon Moxley's undoing, and then we get some weird aftermath where you can't kill this boogeyman, for example. He rises from the grave. After everything possible that I thought could have happened here, I did not expect a rogue bastard coming in and ruining my perfect night. Damn it! I'm so mad at myself. I really didn't think they were going to let this run any further. I thought this was going to be it, especially when Jon Moxley during the match says, I'm going to do this on my own. He has to learn. He has to learn now. And then I thought that this was it. Nope. Pac's back. Death Rider, stronger than ever in numbers. Darby and Moxley keeps going. It's the never-ending story, apparently. I just didn't think that they were going to push this forward to Wrestle Dream. And now it looks like they're going to push this forward through the fiery pits of hell. Literally. Straight up, if it wasn't for Pac, I swear on everything pure in me, I bet you Darby could have won here, because while they destroyed the coffin, Darby had Moxley dead to rights. Straight up. But nope, I had to get the bastard at some point. Pac was the last thing on my mind. All because of Pac. I fucked up. Seriously, though. I'm tired of Darby and Moxley to the point that, okay, he's not ready. Okay, I don't want to do this to you, but I have to end you. Okay, Darby wants to take everything from him, but what much more do you need to do? I guess in hindsight, though, also the personal angle with Bryan Danielson there 1 year ago, where he got freaking, we don't talk about that. And Darby was there. I guess it further adds that because Bryan was there to witness what happened to Darby, what happened to him freaking 1 year ago without something on his head. But still, I just didn't think they were going to push this further. I fucked up.
It's okay, bro. Remember, perfection is the enemy of great. And I can tell that you were striving for perfection, so you're not accepting that you were still great in this event.
It just bugs me.
Now, speaking of great, let's pull that back up. We have the match that we both got right, but it was about a 50-50 split, give or take. I mean, 6 out of 15. I mean, yes and no, kind of split. That was the AEW Women's World Championship 4-way. Now, if I did not watch Wednesday, I would have had Toni Storm winning. But he straight up said, if this is my last time with the title, and even in our group chat, we had, if this is truly her last time with the title, blah, 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 whatever. I was like, you know what? She's losing. And I truly think that we're going to start getting programs with Mercedes and Toni Storm, because that feels like the true forbidden door, but like them two having some type of interactions and matches. So I picked the woman that I'm most familiar with out of these choices. And I thought that it was about time for Chris Statlander to get her flowers and get this win. No disrespect to the other two women in the match, but to me it was, and to everybody else, it was really Toni Storm or Chris Statlander. Another multi-person match where it was really only two options were going to happen there. So I picked Chris Statlander based on that little awkward thing in the spotlight and whatever. I mean, I know they were all kind of there, but I had Statlander. She's just more, she's more resonant to me. So why are we having truly probably the best women's wrestler in the history and currently going right now? Why did we pick her over potentially losing the title?
The way I see it is this, for a couple of reasons. I followed Chris Statlander's career before AEW, and I wanted to see her thrive and succeed. When she was the TBS champion, I got to see that live right here in Toledo, Ohio, when she defended against Sky Blue. I absolutely loved that. It was my favorite match in my AEW experience. But she talked about also the ups and downs of her career. That ACL tear, for example, that dropped her like a bad habit when she didn't know how she was going to regroup. Came back, beat that bitch, won the TBS championship. And again, since she's lost that, she hasn't been involved in any golden pursuits outside facing Mercedes Moné and being the best fame Moné's had as an opponent since Charlotte Flair, Moné's own words, losing to her twice, while JJ pretty much dropped the ball with her. For me, it had to be Stat. But not only from what you said Wednesday with that spotlight, but also the following Wednesday where Stat just like, okay, let them fight, let them beat up each other up, just walked away. She was focused on the title, not the people involved in the match. She was focused on the title. What really drove it home to me, though, was when I listened to AEW Unrestricted with special guest Chris Statlander, and they asked Stat what this match means to her and what this year has meant to her since she's all alone. She has no friends. She doesn't know if she's a good person, bad person. She's still trying to figure herself out. But for now, it seems like Harley Cameron appreciates her. And it was nice to see Harley Cameron celebrate in her moment with her, as she alluded to on the scrum. For me, Chris Statlander said this year was a year of reformation. After losing out on the 0-2 Jamie Hayter, and the fact that the other story in that match is Jamie Hayter and Thekla, who are due on a one-on-one match with each other. Let's not forget, Thekla came in AEW and wiped out Jamie Hayter literally her first day here, and Jamie hasn't been able to hit her with Hayter yet. So that's a singles program. Doesn't need the title. So I had to look at the two longer-running tenured people here that haven't even had a one-on-one match yet. Chris Statlander and Toni Storm. And Chris Statlander, 4 years on the same stage later, finally is where it's at. She's a freaking champ and well-deserved, pinning Toni Storm. The fact now that I also think this could lead to maybe an encore with Toni Storm and Chris Statlander one-on-one for the first time ever, with Toni Storm as the challenger, is another sweet spot for me that drove me towards Statlander being a reset for this women's division. Yes, Toni Storm is the strongest, compelling character and overall worker here, but I think Chris Statlander is a very close second with everything she's been through in her AEW career. Now it's a whole new world with Chris Statlander at the forefront of the AEW women's division. Couldn't be happier for her, and it had to happen here, or honestly, I didn't think it was ever going to happen. So more so, it was a personal bet based on reformation talk from a restricted that encouraged me to change from Toni Storm to Chris Statlander. And I'm so fucking glad I did.
Fantastic. And again, it shouldn't be glossed over that she pinned the champion. Usually in these multi-person matches, the other people are there to take the fall and have titles change hands and stuff. But I think that this was a very well done statement put on the, really cemented her as deserving because she actually beat the champion and not just won the match. So that was fantastic for her. We'll see what happens in the future. And with that, we can close the coffin, lay to rest, All Out 2025, and literally about as quick as they went to what we're about to talk about, we're going to switch now to the WWE's WrestlePalooza. It's as simple as that. Whoa! We got only a few matches compared to the other thing, and I know it's, pay-per-view model versus premium live event model, but and this is the first time you had to pay this much of a price to get a WWE event in over a decade. So
give or take.
If you didn't get it for free or not free, but through your cable package or whatever have you. So we're going to follow the same format. We're going to go with what did we get right together? What did I get wrong and you got right? And but there's so few options here, there's not a lot that crosses those streams. So we'll get right into what everybody got right. And that was, we'll start with the championship. Hey, we'll start our shows with the champions, and that is WWE Championship, current champion Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. We both had Cody Rhodes winning. I think that I don't want to speak for you, so we'll hear what you have to say. But you don't give Cody the title before he goes away for a few weeks or whatever to go film a movie to come back to be the champion just to lose it. Otherwise, and don't make me rage out, you should have just had Cena keep the title since he was on the shows every freaking week and Cody wasn't. So I don't freaking understand why the frick they did that. But you're definitely not taking the title off of him in his first match back. So I just feel bad for Drew McIntyre. We're not here to break down all that stuff.
Nah.
But go ahead.
The statistical outlook was Cody ain't losing. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, Drew McIntyre, he was a victim of his own karma because he had a chance to give us the upset of the night, and he didn't go for it. And that's not here nor there. But at the end of the day, to your point, Cody just got the title back. They're not going to turn the WWE Championship into a sensational championship less than a freaking month after it changed hands. It would be ridiculous. There's no way Cody should have lost here, unfortunately. It was a matter of circumstance. Why would anyone think Drew McIntyre is going to beat Cody unless Cody gets, again, legitimately injured? Way too soon.
The one issue with this all is that TKO very clearly loves Cody Rhodes, and they love other people who we will talk about here in this post-mortem. But Drew McIntyre could have the ref was basically stopping Drew from doing what he needed to do, and that's going to be his excuse, which like Drew is long overdue for an actual title run.
Agreed.
I think that they're afraid to give it to him at this point because how do you book it to get off of him? Now that Punk no longer is paying attention to him, now that Rollins isn't paying attention to him, I just think that Drew, I mean, you're going to keep it on Cody probably until maybe until Lesnar, and we'll get to that in a second. But everybody picked Cody Rhodes. It seemed like a no-brainer, even though it probably should have been Drew. And I think that most people would even argue that it should have been Drew. But you could have told the story. Cody's been gone for 5 weeks. Still, he's not recovering, but he doesn't have his ring rusted and whatever. And when I grew up, the title changed hands, not hot potatoed, but sometimes you have an off night and you lose, and then you get a rematch, you get it back and stuff. That's how sports works.
Right. And I get that. We're on ESPN, the eccentric platform of sports, but you also got to consider also what's to come next. Freaking crown jewel for the Super Bowl ring, where it's champion versus champion, where a champion's going to be hurt in defeat and a championship's value is going to be hurt in defeat. At the end of the day, what's the bigger match right now? Steph and Drew or Steph and Cody? Cause and effects. That's why also I think a lot of people went with Cody Rhodes, and I also put that in hindsight as well. If Drew McIntyre was to win the title again, the only person I could see him defending it against right now, which would totally change the landscape of WWE as we know it, is Gunther. Because Gunther was a credible world heavyweight champion, but he's never held the WWE Championship, nor has he ever been on SmackDown. That would be Gunther's career reset. But he's out right now on vacation. So with that being said, it just couldn't see Cody losing the championship. If it wasn't for the fact Crown Jewel is Super Bowl ring championship more versus challenging for a championship, I wouldn't mind seeing Cody versus Drew too. Maybe 2 or 3 falls, the last man standing, but how visceral this could have gotten. But they didn't want to do that. And you also pointed out at the end of the day, TKO. Who's TKO's company man besides Cody Rhodes? I'll wait.
Well, we're going to get to who I think that TKO has a love affair with in our main event of the evening. So let's go on to the next match. There's so much I can rage about, and I'm going to basically immediately once this video is done. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to pay our respects to the event. So stay tuned to my channel after this for Major Push Wrestling and the raging that we're going to do on TKO. But I digress. The Mixed Tag Team Championship. Everybody had Punk and Lee winning. I mean, and if we had a bonus point who was taking the fall, I think everybody would have picked Becky to take that fall.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think that far ahead about the crown jewel stuff. But yeah, with that being said, Seth wasn't taking the fall, and he needs to look strong against Cody. And Becky taking the fall leads to a Lee versus Becky, even though if she didn't, it doesn't matter. You could still build to that anyway, but you're going to get an Intercontinental title feud with them almost assuredly. But we didn't have them on Raw, so don't really know what's going on unless they were celebrating so hard, that they couldn't make it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But you picked Punk and Lee. I picked Punk and Lee. First match back in over a decade. The first time I think that they've ever teamed with each other. Couple versus couple. Is there anything else that needed to even be seen here with this?
Honestly, no. And the result was called perfectly. We called it on City Predicting. I'm sure people called it on predictions. The bigger story here at the end of the day, while WWE's history right now in the TKO era has been Seth freaking Rollins and CM Punk, the reset on the women's division now in this era is AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. And AJ Lee, who's never held the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship, could be a workhorse woman, a leader of this entire locker room for who knows how long, with the fact that she is in peak shape. She didn't lose a single step of nerve, of storytelling, and in ring acumen, if I'm being honest here. It made sense, the result. It made sense for me to see AJ Lee maybe beat Becky. Again, that's not here nor there. And to your point, maybe they didn't want to immediately push this right now because maybe Crown Jewel is not going to be about AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. It's going to be about the Super Bowl race at the end of the day. But I keep thinking about this. I just didn't see Crown Jewel going any other way besides champion versus champion because they don't do that at Survivor Series anymore, which I'm glad they don't. But I kind of wish they didn't do that to begin with, because at the end of the day, you're devaluing a championship in your company, a world championship nonetheless. Again, neither here nor there. But either way, AJ beats Becky, submission or pin. It had to be AJ beats Becky in her return back to WWE and professional wrestling. Couldn't see the match go no other way.
Absolutely. And it's really taking a lot of all I know about my coping strategies to not rant about the fact that Survivor Series, like you said, literally used to be champion versus champion. Now they're 3 weeks apart from another event that is champion versus champion.
Yep.
Like, what are we doing? And you're calling it Crown Jewel, and it's not even in a kingdom anymore, so there's no crowns involved. Like, okay, you'll have to stay tuned for that. So we all got that right. That's 19 out of 19. We have now we're going to move to the grudge match because there was some controversy. Not usually controversy when it comes to making predictions, Noah.
Yeah.
So this one was a little tough. The writing was on the wall for Breakker and Reed to win this match regardless, but I still thought it's ESPN. The Usos were in Indianapolis on ESPN promoting it. They feel like the company guys. So I didn't think they were going to have them lose. And then as soon I knew LA Knight might be getting involved somehow, but then he was made the special guest referee. And even though I had submitted my predictions, as did somebody else, we both messaged saying we would like to change our predictions, which you so graciously allowed due to the time that we put it in. It's not like we put it in during the match or anything like that. Like, no, as soon as we found out that he was a special guest referee.
So I allowed it. Yeah, exactly. It was done during the freaking countdown.
Yes. And that type of last minute bull crap is something else that I'll be ranting about. Like that, and then the Cena versus AJ in the middle of a Tuesday thing. Like they're like forcing us to, like, you could have done this on the show that the majority of your fans are watching. Like, I don't understand the thought process behind that, but I do understand the thought process behind having Breakker and Reed win. LA Knight didn't even really cost them the champion. It cost them the match. It was just, he was pretty impartial. But the problem is I believe the Usos would have won if there was a real referee, because the real referee wouldn't have allowed all the Yeah, and I know the Usos introduced the chairs first and blah 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 blah, but the go home of the match was them both going through a table and then losing. The table's not there. Maybe they don't lose. LA Knight's not the ref. Table wouldn't have been there. So that's kind of where my head was at, and that's why I was kind of viscerally. But I would have been okay if you didn't change it. But that's why I was like, this is like literally my line of thinking with that, and yeah, so you got that right as well. The only people who didn't do that was Colin, JJ, and OBG1. So did I miss anything? I mean, you had them going into it before the special guest. So what were your thoughts?
When was the last time that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed actually won a match versus obliterate Roman Reigns or somebody post-match, in my opinion? If the division's going to be strong besides Seth freaking Rollins. At this point, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed lost again as a tag team. They might as well turn on each other, and Seth should have kicked out the loser from the division. So I had to go with them for the win. And to your point, again, I do allow a deadline. And WWE at this point, they don't care about just giving it on TV. They care about your phones having the notifications on, your phone on social media. Here's a freaking exclusive from Adam Pearce that's made official. They care more about people learning about the stuff on the internet than they do on their damn product, which is a whole nother rant in itself. One of these days I'll join our WrestlePalooza when I'm not watching Dynamite, because I do want to watch Dynamite because Chris Styles has been in the title. Anyway, different conversation. That being said, and he might go mix up the session. Yeah, I mean, the Usos, also these teases of, I feel like Jey Uso is unwinding. At one point, Jey was opposed to what Roman Reigns was. He's almost turning into him to a degree, because right now it sounds like respect for the family, acknowledge me. And at one point, Roman was trying to endorse Jey as the next in line. So I just feel like right now they are trying to really turn Jey a different way from your typical babyface main event character that loses, not even the main event. As far as LA Knight goes, yeah, impartial, but he's got beef with Jey Uso. He's got beef with Paul Heyman in the division. So I didn't see him necessarily picking a favorite here. And as far as match changes goes, when it's just a special ref, that doesn't really imply that it changes the match itself. It just changes who counts the decision. And the decision may be influenced by the superstar, but at the end of the day, they wear the stripes, they call for the bell, that's your winner. It'd be different if they took out Braun Breaker due to he had a fucked up back. Let's put in Grande Americano. Who the fuck knows? But yeah, I couldn't see Bronson and Reed losing if the Vision is still going to be the strongest unit on Monday Night Raw, besides Seth losing also as well. You had to make the Vision 50-50 on this night to a degree, in my opinion. And this was the one match they were going to win.
Absolutely. And again, just to touch on that point, LA Knight's not a real ref. So he allowed things that a real ref and a normal ref wouldn't have allowed. So this basically turned into a no DQ match. And we love no DQ up in this piece. But that was for me was like proved LA Knight's impact on the match, not necessarily the outcome, but kind of the outcome. So that's kind of where I saw that. So that was 16 out of 19. Now, what should have been the most lopsided match of the night could have gone either way. Io Sky, Stephanie Vaquer. We both saw Stephanie because honestly, after the Naomi stuff, and again, no issue with what Naomi has going on in her freaking real life. No. Deal with it. You guys we want to hate. You can at me on socials and I will happily educate you. But as far as it's concerned, Stephanie Vaquer, I don't think she would have beat Naomi for the title back then because Naomi was still cooking. All you guys complaining about Naomi's has to stop in the middle of the best storyline. You think they were going to stop it for her by giving Stephanie the title? No. So then we would have had Stephanie not have the title. This actually allowed for her to get the title. Io's clearly got other stuff going on. Oh, yeah. It didn't like directly impact the match, but you could have in the back of your mind, whatever. And they put on, as soon as the match started, I was like, or like the entrances started, I told my buddies, because we do watch alongs, like not on video, but at a house together. And I was like, this is going to be match of the night. I feel like I was correct in that, according to ESPN's only reporter who's reporting on their event. Don't get me started.
Right.
Well, this was the highest rated match, and it was only a C+. So I'm interested to see. I mean, I don't really care about DM, but like I'm interested to see how he the comparison in the rating between the matches. Now, some people still thought Io could win it, and she's the veteran. She's the former champion. You could easily have had her win it and still do this breakup stuff and have it kind of go, but it's clearly leading to a tag match in I want to say Saudi because it's Crown Jewel, but it's in Perth, it's Australia. And so that storyline was going to supersede anything. And honestly, I don't know if it's just WWE or not, but it feels like they give the title to people who don't have stories going on, and because they need something going on, whereas the people who do have stories going on don't have the title. I mean, I know it's not always 1-to-1 ratio, but Io's got other stuff going on, but you could have had the title in that. But Stephanie really has nothing going on. I mean, other than being freaking awesome and incredibly wonderful to watch in the ring and, whatever. Right. So it just felt like it was a no-brainer. Like, where does Stephanie go from here? She loses is basically kind of where my head was at. Yeah. And nowhere. So she won, kind of like Julia, who's got nothing going on, but she's got the championship, even though she shouldn't have. So you picked Stephanie Vaquer. What were your thoughts on that?
But don't get me to rant on Julia. If anyone ever want to hear me and Gino rant at the same time, one of these days, WrestlePalooza, there will be a rant-a-thon, I assure you. And Julia will definitely be one I'll rant about because the displays of the World Slam Champion pisses me the F off. But that's not here nor there. As far as about Vaquer, who has not been on the main roster for even 6 freaking months. You kidding me? She had to freaking win here, regardless of this situation that happened. I had to see Stephanie win here when she wasn't going to face Naomi, because Naomi at least could have furthered a storyline of her getting disqualified. Proceed with caution. I'll knock you out with freaking yellow caution tape. Here, though, Io and Stephanie was based on pure respect and competition and athleticism. And I fucking love that. Once in the blue moon, WWE actually gives you a compelling wrestling match, only in ring, that comes down the better athlete. Hello, John Cena, AJ Styles from the freaking Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of glad they're revisiting that classic, even though the way that was booked. We'll talk about that a different day on Cindy Predicting and another review. Anyway, but yeah, Stephanie for me had to win here. It was her first big chance here on the main roster. She has yet to beat Io Sky. They've already gone one-on-one twice. Both of those ended in no contest, so no real winner was rendered. And to your point, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, they have a whole lot of confusion right now going for them on Monday Night Raw against Io's former running mates, the Kabuki Warriors. So clearly that's going to be a tag match, player, grudge match probably, a crown jewel if not on Monday Night Raw. Stupid Super Bowl rings be damned. Rhea Ripley's in Australia. She doesn't need to always have the freaking championship, JJ. So yeah, Stephanie had to win here. Or what's Stephanie doing besides, okay, her and Nikki are going to be a tag team? That would be interesting, but it wouldn't make sense in the long haul because that's not people wanting for her right now. Give Stephanie the run, the chance, the rub, and see what she does against the likes of Roxanne Perez, Lyra Valkyria, Bayley. Maybe we'll finally give someone to Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile only had one of her best matches this year against her, for Pete's sake. So yeah, come on, make your superstars matter. Make your championships matter. So as far as I'm concerned, Stephanie Vaquer was the perfect reset for this title, with Naomi vacating it versus, in my opinion, Stephanie eventually beating her for it. It just wasn't going to happen now if Naomi was still here. But since she's a mama, congratulations, it made sense for Stephanie to win the vacated title.
Absolutely. And of all the negative things that I'm about to let out of my mouth, starting with this next match and leading into the 7:30's recording of my Major Push Wrestling about TKO, they actually gave the fans something that we want. Now you're going to have Stephanie with the title, and she's going to devil's kiss every other woman on the roster, and I am firmly planted in my chair here for it. So with that down, we're going to move on to clearly the shocking result of the evening.
For everybody, not just the team, I'll tell you that right now. I'll give you the overall percentage of the freaking 30-plus people besides us that picked the non-winner here. After you're done, go ahead. Good Lord.
You can't bet against John Cena.
No.
You just can't. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. He's got a losing record against Lesnar. Last time, it might not have been the last time they had a match, but the one we remember is when he got destroyed at SummerSlam, and they were building John Cena back up. They had him beat Logan Paul after in what was a great match. If you don't think that was a great match, I'm sorry. It was just a great match. And then he lost to Cody Rhodes. So babyface Cena is now 1-1 in this, after turning. And we thought, they wanted to build him up to give him a chance against Lesnar. I thought you had a better story having him beaten down going into it. And can he overcome the odds? But obviously, if they wanted him to lose, whether it was last minute or not. I know there's some. You don't believe everything that you read from places like that don't have like editors and established credibility and stuff. I can't even remember the name of the place that everybody was running with. Oh, it was changed last minute, bro. All this stuff gets changed or it doesn't. It's Triple H. Yeah, maybe he pivots, maybe he does, but he's always got like an end game. So he might be changing how we get there, but clearly there's an end game for Brock, and I look forward to seeing what's happening. But you and I both picked John Cena, and he got crushed. He got crushed.
Straight up.
And
I mean, continue.
I don't want to be that guy, but he came out with a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids. And I'm sure some of them lost a little bit of will seeing what had happened. But I should have known once he came out with those kids, like, he's not going to win. Like, they got their wish to be out on stage with him instead of seeing Cena get his win against Lesnar. Cena, they're not making a big deal out of it right now, but they did, like, in the graphic as he was entering, he's 99 premium live events wins. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No. Can they use it as a promotion tool for getting views? Yes. They didn't for this because you didn't need to use that as a promotion tool for this event. John Cena versus Lesnar could have been the only match on the card, and people would still be paying $30 to watch it. Not if it was 3 seconds long, but TKO owns the UFC, and sometimes you pay big premium $75 for something that lasts a minute and is really underwhelming. At least there was a story told here. Only 2 people on our screen right now got it right, and that allowed Walter to tie us, and that allowed Cass to have a perfect record in this show. It was, it's impressive to see that coming. I wouldn't have. I mean, it's difficult. But why did you pick John Cena? You're obviously not his former camp counselor like I am, but like, you see him as Super Cena, and he probably should have won, but he didn't. So the plans are the plans.
Well, to your point, SummerSlam, 16 German suplexes and 2 F5s and bludgeoning later beat him, of course, for the World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena's last singles match with him was following that at Night of Champions. Seth Rollins debacle that. Royal Rumble following your triple threat. Seth and Cena both lost to Brock. Seth was involved in the decision. They haven't met ever since. Of course, these two go all the way back to Ohio Valley Wrestling, of course, before WWE. The fact of the matter is, though, you, me, 17 people on the team, 41 out of the 51 overall picked Cena to win, 80.4% felt that John Cena deserved this for the last time to get one more time over Brock Lesnar. It just felt like to me that this would be a nice way to big a big thank you. And to the point that I go back to SummerSlam 2 years ago with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, when Cody says, "I don't fear you," and he already almost lost his arm to him. After that match at SummerSlam, where Brock lost to Cody, Brock embraced Cody with a hug and basically respected him that night. I was figuring that the same thing would maybe could have been done here to some degree. Instead, it was almost like Brock literally threw his gloves and like, I'm done with this shit. But whether or not, this is a long haul TKO move for ESPN to have the most premier combat sports athlete on their platform once again, that's hindsight. I don't work for the network. I have no idea. But I just felt that John Cena, the real John Cena, in the last time, we're not getting him versus Brock again. This was the last time, I would think, with 5 days left. I figured that Cena should have got his comeuppance by literally split head open if need be, like Extreme Rules 2012. I just felt that Cena needed to win this, honestly, or should have. But I was wrong. And like you said, 8 minutes of bludgeoning later, Brock wins again and throws his gloves away and like, okay, bye, fuck you.
It's odd because John Cena is so much more of a needle mover in every aspect of entertainment than Brock Lesnar is. But, you get what you get, and the best thing about being wrestling fans and wrestling and professional wrestling is these matches are booked, they're predetermined, these outcomes are based on storylines, and they're based on what the people who are making these matches and promoting these matches think can carry on after the fact, because there's no off season, because there's no breaks really ever.
Nope.
We have to have an idea of what's going to happen next, and not us, but the people behind the scenes need to. And obviously they've got something in mind. Cena's going to take some time off to do whatever, and then he's going to go to Perth, and he's going to get beat up by AJ Styles, and AJ Styles gets to beat up John Cena one more time, and we're going to see that awesome. I think he's going to go back to having another classic match, so we'll get 3 of Cena's best matches of all time in 4 matches on his final year, and I'm so looking forward to that.
Same.
So that is done. We have the final tallies here. Is this the new tallies?
Yep, this is the leaderboard. Caitlin's still holding it down in first by 3 points with 68. I'm in second with 65, and you are right behind me with 64, with only 2 shows left as far as we know, and that is Crown Jewel and Survivor Series San Diego. And then I think the league is officially done. And shout out to the Galaxy, as again, my friend Mark Griffith, one of my horsemen of predictions that predicts everything with me in TNA, NXT, AEW, and WWE, along with Jeff Chapman and Christopher Roth, holds down first place for the Galaxy, while Richard Morales and Ashley are right there in second and third. So again, it's still a very close race for both team and Galaxy, and to see who overall gets the overall highest score amongst the entire nebula, I like to say, when I combine both the Galaxy and the team. At the end of the day, though, it's just fun continually simply predicting and analyzing this, and I hope people continue to enjoy the ride and continue these post-show analysis along with us as well. But that being said, that's WrestlePalooza. That's AEW Loud. It was a hell of a weekend. Gino, I think it's safe to say we can put these predictions to rest once and for all and bid those shows farewell forevermore. Good Lord.
And honestly, I could not be more happy to put this event in my rearview mirror, but unfortunately, it is just the beginning. As we've closed the coffin and laid to rest WrestlePalooza, or as I called it at the end, WrestlePasnooza, because of the way they had the matches organized. I definitely think that, AEW had its own ability to snooze. Is a long event is just as tiresome as an improperly organized card is.
Agree.
So they both had their faults. They both had their strong points. The stronger points come from AEW this weekend than came from WWE, but the bigger talking points are coming from WWE, and that's just how it goes. So if you want to, guys, come check out my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate everything. PapaGino0017 on the YouTubes. And I really appreciate Noah allowing me to do this with him as fellow lovers of stats and fellow lovers of wrestling. This is amazing. And Noah's one of the most professional guys on the internet talking wrestling. Regardless, he's super positive about stuff, even though he will be negative about the stuff he doesn't like. He doesn't harp on the negatives. And there's too much hate and negative out online, and it gets clicks and it gets views and whatever, but he's giving you honest assessments, and he's giving you his true honest opinion. He's not just doing that for clickbait, and I really appreciate being able to work with Noah. So you go to his channel at nfoster1916, and Noah, continue to plug that.
Again, they can find me if they choose. And unfortunately, seen on the X and on YouTube, where I continually wish to only encourage and promote that there are no winners, there are no losers, there are no betters, just fans of opinions with this passion we all share. At the end of the day, folks, support one another, respect each other, protect your mentality too, treasure your families, continue to be predicting and just your life and enjoy professional wrestling. And as simple as that. Of course, I will be back here tomorrow night with Simply Predicting double feature. We will be simply predicting TNA Victory Road and NXT No Mercy, and there will be forums for both the TNA League and the NXT League. So please stay tuned for more on that. If you haven't already, go check out my Canadian friend Ash, and please subscribe to her channel at Bag for Wrestling. We had a great one-on-one conversation with a preview regarding NJPW, Destruction, and Kobe. I'm looking forward to more conversations on New Japan Pro Wrestling with her as well. You can find her along with me and a bunch of other fools weekly Saturday nights on the Saturday Shenanigans. This weekend, it's a freaking karaoke night. Canadian karaoke. So if you're in tune for that, whether it's Nickelback or something else like Maroon 5 or Shania Twain, find us the Saturday Shenanigans. Go ahead, donate and super chat towards my dignity and everyone else's for that matter. And stay tuned as well for me and Walter Cruz on the next episode of A Simple Session, a one-on-one conversation on practically anything, including professional wrestling. That and so much more courtesy of me and my friends at the Sick Reliable Studios, keeping you in tune with everything we can professional wrestling in and out of Post-Mortems. And I'm sure some more of this is to come as well. And of course, I'll see y'all around in and out of my YouTube channel on the No DQ Review and the watch-alongs that we do here too. It's as simple as that.
And most importantly, guys, What are your thoughts? Don't forget to hop in the comment sections. Give us a like, give us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Obviously, we're breaking down stats, so it's not really about like agreeing and disagreeing, but did you have it
All the
right? Did you
stats.
have it wrong? All of these things. We're coming into the wire here, and Noah and I are 2 and 3 on the team. We got things going on. It's going to be a fun one, and we look forward to continue bringing these videos to you, especially when we get to start it in the new year with a whole fresh lineup of things to come. You guys are ours, so we really appreciate you. From Noah to Gino, as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, folks, and rest in peace. WrestlePalooza and All Out. Good grief almighty.